We say, is there life in outer space? Is there death anywhere? Is there absence of life anywhere? But what they mean to say is, are there Martians out there? Right? But the atom is alive, and the atom praises God, and it glorifies God. And the molecule, the cell, the rocks, the water, they all glorify God. So life is the primary attribute. Then after that comes knowledge, and knowledge is related to creation and existence, to creation and to non-creation that would have been possible had God wanted to create it, and to the nature of existence. So God's knowledge pertains to the knowledge of everything necessary, all axioms, all maxims, all primary truths, all principles, such as the part is smaller than the whole, okay, in standard space, and all mathematical truths, all quantitative and qualitative truths, all geometric truths. God knows that. And of course, of the greatest of all things in necessity that he knows is the reality of necessary being, the reality of God himself. God knows God. You get closer and closer and closer in this life and the world, but you will never fathom him. You just get filled more and more and more. But he knows that. He knows all that is necessary. He knows all that is possible. When we say that he knows all that is possible, we mean that he knows everything that pertains to the created world, and to the world that was not created but could have been created, which is infinitely greater than the created world. For every leaf, there is an infinite set of other leaves that could have been created in its place, and non-leaves as well. So he knows all of that. And there is nothing that you can imagine that God does not know from before creation, before time and place, pre-existently. So for example, today, the film industry developed these incredible special effects. Right? When you go back and see how they began to develop with Godzilla and things like that, they're sort of laughable, right? But today, they're like really real. And so you see Star Wars, and you see The Lord of the Rings, and The Golden Compass, and Harry Potter, and that's about as many movies as I've ever watched. But you could go on and on, right? And there is nothing in those movies or the special effects that was not known to God before the creation of the heavens and the earth. If he had willed to create the world of the Golden Compass, where people's souls walk outside their bodies, he had the power to do that. He created it as a movie in certain people's minds to be produced in this century, but it is not anything new. Everything we discover was already known to him from before the beginning. Okay, so all things possible, and then all things impossible, such as the existence of two gods, or three gods, or a Greek pantheon, or a Hindu pantheon, and all of the notions that they have, and all of the impossibilities. All of that is known to him, Azza wa Jal. And his knowledge manifests that absolutely in one manifestation that befits his perfect being. Okay, so his knowledge is what? Necessary, not possible. His knowledge is necessary. His lack of knowledge about anything is impossible. Okay, and this is not arbitrary. This is applying the rules of intellect, which we are not very strong at usually, because we haven't been trained that way. So it sounds arbitrary. It sounds like we're playing with words. No, we're not. We're understanding realities. Okay, so His knowledge is necessary. His knowledge is pre-existent. None of it is created. None of it is acquired. He doesn't learn from you that, oh, you used your left hand instead of your right hand. But I thought it was going to be your right hand. No, that's not the way it works. Okay, his knowledge is everlasting. It never diminishes. It never decreases. His knowledge is self-sufficient. Doesn't need angels. The angels tell him about everything in creation. They love to do that. And there's a special community between him and the angels. But Allah doesn't need to know anything from angels. And if you look at the hadith where Allah tells us about the angels, they will say they come to tell him that there's a certain servant doing something, but Allah knows better already, right? So he doesn't need angels, he doesn't need computers, he doesn't need books, although he writes it all out in books. But he doesn't need that. And his knowledge is also dissimilar. It's not like what you have. You have knowledge. And your knowledge is the greatest thing about you. But your knowledge is nothing like his knowledge. Ibn Ata'Allah says, may Allah be pleased with him, Ilahi, أنا الجاهل في علمي فكيف لا أكون جهولا في جهلي. He says, my Lord, I am ignorant in my knowledge. Okay, wouldn't you say that? I would say that. What do I know? If I know something about fiqh or usul or Quran, I know I'm so ignorant about everything else about it. I'm ignorant in my knowledge. Okay, but I have a minimum so that you can say, well, he's got enough knowledge to talk. Okay, but I am ignorant in my knowledge. فَكَيْفَ لَا أَكُنْ جَهُولًا. So how can I not be extremely ignorant in my ignorance? That is our description. That is not Allah's description, Azza wa Jal. His knowledge is utterly dissimilar, and his knowledge is one. It's not made up of elements, not made up of chapters, not made up of programs or anything like that. It is one knowledge that is completely, we would say, jam'a. It is completely gathered, okay, that exposes everything.